Hello and welcome into the WK page. I am George Herbig, Chief Forecaster here for Weather Now, Kentucky, and we do have a quick update for you as snow is beginning to fall for portions of Kentucky. With that said, it allows us to be able to go into some new data. I just want to give a quick update. It's not going to be a very long video. I do want to wait about a minute to allow folks to get involved and to get in here. Of course, as we're waiting, as always, if you wouldn't mind tapping the share button at the bottom portion of your screen, help us get these shares up and get this video out to your news feed so that your friends and family can view this information as well and get up to date on what to expect. We are live on both YouTube and Facebook right now, so if I am responding to a comment that you don't necessarily see, that's okay. It's probably on the other platform, so don't freak out. Michael says, first, snowing in Hartford, Kentucky. Stacy, thank you for the update there. Appreciate you. Also, we have a post on our page I'm going to pin to the top whenever we get done with this video, where you can submit reports throughout the night. Don't be afraid to comment on that multiple times. Let us know what's going on, because oftentimes it can look a little bit different than what the radar is showing. So it's really helpful with those reports. Also, sorry if you hear the vacuum in the background. My wife is getting busy. Ready for snow to start in E-Town, Jeffrey? Oh, I got an update for you there. Snowing in Morgantown, thank you for that update. Let's give it about 30 more seconds. I want to, allow enough time for folks to get in here. Of course, say hello whenever you're entering the chat. I'll give you a nice little greeting. Thank you for all the shares I'm starting to see come across the screen. I appreciate your all's help with that. Thank you so much. Amanda, Johnny, Jessica, Britley, thank you all for sharing the video. I appreciate you. I'll give it about 15 more seconds. There hasn't been many changes since our last update, but I know when the snow first starts, a lot of people are going to be curious as to what's going on, so I want to make sure we're just getting a quick update out, letting folks know what's happening. Snowing in Manitow, I hope I'm saying that correctly. Thank you for that update there. Hello, Amanda, how are you doing? Margot, hello. Shannon, hello. I don't think she can hear me. I'm trying to tell her to turn the vacuum off. All right. Roads are covered in McLean County. Thank you so much for the update there. And thank you also for including both your city and county. That's very helpful. Flurries and Owensboro, thank you for the update there. Okay, so let's go ahead and start this video. Again, as you're coming in, if you wouldn't mind, I am George Herbig, Chief Forecaster for WNK. If you wouldn't mind, tap the share button at the bottom portion of your screen. Help us share the live stream out to your news feed so that your friends and family can view it, get the information as well. Also helps us out on our share go. So thank you guys a lot for helping us with that. Over there on YouTube, hello, how are you guys doing? I haven't forgot about you. So let's go ahead and get this thing rolling. So this is the live radar here. I'm going to actually zoom it out a little bit so you can just kind of see the scope of what's happening. Snow has begun in western Kentucky. If you start, I know a lot of you, before we actually get into the information, I want to real quickly note, a lot of you commented and said that the radar is showing snow, but it's not actually snowing in your area. I know that I saw that comment from Bardstown. I saw it from Radcliffe a couple times. I saw it in Litchfield a couple times as well. Remember, we're not talking about, I know it's easy to forget because we don't usually get these kind of events here, but we're not talking about a 1 to 2 hour event. We're talking about an event that I'm pretty sure the winter weather advisory starts at 7 p.m. Eastern time and goes all the way until 7 a.m. tomorrow. So we're not talking about a one-shot event here. We're talking about a main wave that comes through that you're kind of looking at now on your screen, but then several waves after that. So I want to make sure I note that real quickly for you guys. This is not a one-wave event. This is a multiple waves event. Now, the secondary and third waves and fourth waves, they'll scoop more and more southeast. But just remember, this is not a one-wave event. And if you're looking at the radar right now and you're wondering why we're seeing all these gaps in between the actual snowfall. So, the white is a light snowfall. Blue is starting to get a little bit more moderate, like, for example, up here toward Morganfield and north of Madisonville toward Clay and Sturgis, Kentucky. A little bit more moderate snowfall there. Moderate snowfall happening back there toward Illinois. And then, of course, if I go down here and look down here toward the south, a very moderate, or in fact, heavy snowfall occurring down there. But if you're looking at the radar and you're wondering why it is that we're seeing, turn that off, why we're seeing some gaps in the precip or in the snow, this is forecasted. We planned for this. This is not something that's going to alter the snowfall totals very much. We planned for the first hour or so being absolutely evaporated by the dry air that's happening above our head. So if you're looking at the radar wondering, hey, it says it's snowing, but it's not actually snowing. Is that going to hurt my snowfall totals? Not really, because we already planned for that. We already knew a dry slot was going to occur at first. We're actually, Let me go ahead and pull this up for you real quickly. I'm going to pull this up and show you the dew points. So the dew points for many places in Kentucky today were actually in the negatives for quite some time. So the atmosphere, not only at the ground, but above our heads, was super, super, like, bone dry. We're talking really dry. So yeah, naturally it's going to take a little bit for the snow to get down to the ground. It's going to have to moisten up each layer, and as it does that, it's going to evaporate a little bit at first. So eventually the snow will make it to the ground. We did forecast for this, and so it's all been planned for and built into our forecast. So nice little segue there. Dew points currently single digits for many folks, with the exception of southeastern Kentucky. That's where the best moisture is. However, over the last hour to 2 hours, we're looking at a trend of increasing the dew points. Also, I want to note to you real quick. So I have the HRRR model here. I'm going to zoom this into the local view. And you can see that for projections, so it's 5 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. So this is a good projection. The HRRR actually sees -2 degrees on the dew point Elizabethtown. If we go over here and look at the actual current temperature, or current dew point, I should say, it's actually 4 in Elizabethtown. So that's a difference of +6, right? That doesn't sound like a whole lot to everyone. But in a situation like this, a 6-degree swing on dew points actually helps to increase the moisture level that the atmosphere will experience, and thus create a better chance for snow to arrive a lot quicker. So we actually built into our forecast, accounted for about an hour to an hour and a half of the snow evaporating. I will tell you that's only lasting about 45 minutes. So it's actually reasonable. I know it's hard to believe, but it's actually reasonable that snowfall totals could be a smidge, not a lot, but a smidge higher than what we projected for certain zones, because the snowfall is starting faster than what we projected. With that said, I know it's kind of hard to believe, but if you look at the northern extent of this line, it's actually going all the way up towards southern Illinois and approaching southern Indiana. That is not what model data showed. It actually had the line farther south. So we're already seeing a more northern trend of the actual precip shield. That is super important because it affects places. Let me go ahead and pull up our... So this is the forecast we made earlier. I don't mind showing you it at the moment. I mean, you've already seen it today. But this is the forecast we made earlier because model data led us to believe that the northern portions of Kentucky along the Ohio River and northeastern Kentucky, they wouldn't get a precip shield up there. Well, if we go out here and look, for example, Henderson up here, just to the west of Owensboro, it's snowing there. It's snowing. Morganfield, it's snowing. Zoom in, Henderson, it's snowing. And not only that, but there's more snow behind it. So we're already seeing a positive trend toward a more snowy night on radar data. So just be patient. I saw a lot of people, someone from Bardstown in specific said, I'm not seeing anything in Bardstown right now. That means we're not going to get anything for the rest of the night. It's exactly what they said in the comment section. And I just want to urge you to remember, it takes time. I know a lot of you snow lovers are impatient because it's been a while since you've seen snow, like an actual good snow. But just be patient. It's going to take time to get the atmosphere ready to produce snowfall. That said, I want to show you the current model data that we're looking at here. This is a fresh run off the presses. Now remember, I just showed you this model is still running too dry. Okay, so keep that in mind. I think it's going to be too dry on the precipitation aspect as well because it sees lower dew points. It's going to have lower moisture to work with. We're already more moist than the brand new run is showing. So I just want to put this in motion here. So 5 p.m. Central Time. It's doing pretty well in the actual precip shield. It's got a little bit more north than its previous run. So it's looking pretty good so far. When we compare this to the actual radar, it kind of stops around Murray and then up toward Owensboro. If I look at the actual radar, a little bit past Murray, actually, it was more toward the Cadiz area, going toward Hopkinsville. And that northern side is actually all the way over toward Litchfield already. In some portions, it's actually extending over toward Campbellsville. And I know that it sounds kind of crazy because you're probably not seeing snow if you're in this area. If you're in Campbellsville or Horse Cave, it's technically snowing above your head, but you're probably not seeing it. But it's important to note this because this is much wider already than, again, this is a brand new model run. If I switch back over to the model run here, let me find my button real quick. Remember, it only has it going toward, let's say, the Owensboro area and then a sharp line back out toward Murray. If we look at the live radar once again, it's actually all the way over toward Grayson County and going toward Brownsville and all the way back over toward Cadiz. So it has the shape right of the line, but it's already more east. than the model data is showing, and that's a good sign if you're a snow lover. So I know, once again, you start seeing all these patches and you start wondering, am I getting cut into my snowfall? We're trending in the right direction, and it gives me better confidence for my forecast that we made tonight. So again, I'm going to run through the model data real quick, and then I'm going to get to some of your questions. I'm not sure if the chat section on YouTube is not working or what, but I'm not seeing any chat over there, but there's viewers in there. So if you're commenting on YouTube, I'm sorry if I'm not seeing it, but the chat is not working for me for some reason, so I'm sorry about that. Let's go ahead and run this through here. So 6 p.m. Central Time, it does have the line approaching Central Kentucky at that point. 7 p.m. Central Time, it's now in Central Kentucky, full-on snowing out toward Western Kentucky. 8 p.m., now entering toward the Lexington area and Somerset. Bowling Green is full-on snow happening. Elizabethtown as well. Even on this model data, it's actually trying to take the line all the way up to Louisville, which is interesting because if I were to click on an older run, let's go 7 hours ago, and I click on an older run, you can see it actually has the line only going to the southern edge of Louisville. If I click on the brand new run once again, you can see it's well into Louisville, actually into southern Indiana. So again, a good northwestern trend. As we push this on forward here, I want to show you that it actually gets toward Lexington around the 9 to 10 p.m. time frame, again, Central Time. So add an hour onto it if you're Eastern Time. Heavier snowfall starting to occur around the Tennessee and Kentucky border where we have the better snowfall expectations. 10 to 11 p.m. Central Time, we're looking at snow ongoing. Dry starting to fill in, so this is something we're going to have to watch. So set your alarms. If you're wanting to watch the radar and wanting to actually track this along with WNK, set your alarm for about the 10 p.m. time frame because we'll have to watch and see if the radar actually does become more dry. I'm not so sure it will. I think this will actually be more filled in. Again, just given the current dew points that we're seeing and looking at the upper atmosphere and looking at our wind speeds up there, it's not as dry as the model data is liking or is showing. So I think this is actually going to be a bit more filled in. We'll check and see on that here to 4 or 5 hours. As I push this on forward around midnight, you can see a heavier line starting to increase toward Bowling Green, back over toward Paducah. This is actually the start of a deformation band that will continue to swing northwest. So as we push this on forward here, you can see that line is starting to scoot up now. Again, this goes to show you this is not a one-wave system. This is going to be multiple waves over a long time period. I will also tell you that we're not looking at a heavy snow rate type of system, guys. We're looking at a long duration of light to maybe pockets of moderate snow. So you have to remember that. This is not going to be, you look outside and you see a blizzard going on. One, there's almost no winds. Two, we're looking at a very fine, powdery, very efficient snow. So it's a light snowfall occurring over a long period of time instead of short bursts. So push this on forward here. You can see that line kind of stalls around the Western Kentucky parkways there. Very interesting there by the HRRR model. Heavier snow bands still ongoing from Bowling Green to Somerset to Pikeville. And you can see it just kind of sits there for hours and hours. Now this model is trying to show a last minute band swinging all the way up to Lexington around 8 to 9 a.m. tomorrow. So again, this shows you how long the duration of this event is. I mean, it's only 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You're talking about another band of snow trying to push its way through all the way up toward Frankfort and Lexington tomorrow around 9 a.m. in the morning. So that just goes to show you this is a 14 to 17 hour long event. Now, it's not going to be snowing that entire time, but multiple waves are possible throughout that event, especially dependent upon where you're at. So as I push this on forward here, you can see it kind of starts to bring in a even stronger second wave. Watch the motion. So look down here toward Tennessee. I know it doesn't cover Kentucky yet because this model only goes out 18 hours, guys. But it actually, watch this left portion of Tennessee, the western portion of Tennessee. So when I push this forward, you can see a second wave of actually pretty moderate, possibly heavy snowfall starts to pivot and swing its way up toward Kentucky. So we might possibly have another strong second wave tomorrow. That's not a guarantee. But again, this goes to show you another wave possible because this system will start to pivot. I'm going to pull this out to the regional view so that way you can kind of see it for yourself. I'm just going to put this in motion and set it here. So I'm just going to put this in motion. And you see it's more of a west to east movement tonight. But then after about the 2 to 3 a.m. time frame, the line of storm starts to pivot, and that's because it's becoming a low pressure that will actually take off to the northeast and produce a blizzard up there. But you'll see, watch down here toward Arkansas. Once again, that line will start to push up north instead of east, and it'll start swinging all the way up through Tennessee. So we'll have to watch that. There might be a second wave of some moderate snowfall tomorrow afternoon. Again, that's not a forecast yet. That's something brand new that I actually have not seen yet. I saw it live with you for the first time. So again, this is our forecast. If you didn't miss it earlier, let me zoom that. I don't know why that's so zoomed in there. This is our forecast. It's already posted on our page as well if you have a tough time seeing the map. This is our forecast for expected snowfall accumulations. At this point, I'm not going to make any changes to this. It kind of just is what it is at this point. We're going to start doing more nowcasting, which means we're doing a live video now. We might do a live video in 3 hours as well. If you're starting to notice, we're doing it every 3 hours at this point, just kind of update you on what to expect. So if you haven't already, turn on the notifications for the WK page on Facebook, ring the bell on YouTube, turn that bell on, get notifications there, or subscribe and like the page on Facebook. This is kind of our forecast for now, and I feel pretty confident in it based upon how the radar is trending along with the dew points trending. I feel really good about this forecast. I could make some minute changes, like for example, the eastern side of Warren County can probably go up to the 3 to 5 inch zone. But when you're starting to talk about a difference of a half of an inch over a span of a few hours, it's really not that big of a deal. So I don't want anyone to stress about the current color that they're in. It kind of is what it is at this point, and it will be what it's going to be. 4 to 7 inch zone for eastern Kentucky. I could probably extend that out towards Somerset if I wanted to make a change there. But again, it kind of just is what it is at this point. This is the forecast we're rolling with. 3 to 5 inch zone currently for Somerset, stretching back toward Bowling Green, but not including Bowling Green. Bowling Green in that 2 to 4 inch zone, as well as Hopkinsville, Litchfield, Campbellsville, Danville, Moorhead, Ashland. And then a very thin line of 2 to 4 inches is possible, or I'm sorry, 1 to 3 inches is possible just on the northern side of the parkway. So Madisonville, Paducah, maybe the southern side of Elizabethtown, Lexington, going up toward northeastern Kentucky and Mount Olivet. A very thin line of, once again, up to 1 inch possibly occurring just to the north of that. So for places like West Point, places like Brandenburg, going in toward the northern side of Meade County, going toward Owensboro, Henderson possible with that as well, given the newest trends. So we're looking at a dusting or less, if you're lucky, really, for the northern side of the state. But however, you just saw for yourself, the model's trying to pick it up a little bit in the Louisville area. We'll have to keep an eye on that. So this is the current forecast as of now. Like I said, I could make a couple of very minute or small changes to it. But at this point, it kind of is what it is. Just pay attention to the page for updates. Dallery asked a good question. What does the area of uncertainty mean? So if you think back to 5 minutes ago when I showed you the model data and I showed you and I pointed out the possible deformation bands, those are very, very unpredictable when you're talking about coming in ahead of an event. Deformation bands are very likely in a setup like this because, again, we're talking about the low pressure getting going and starting to spin and be able to create a pivot point. When that happens, you get deformation bands on the northwestern side of what we call the exit region, basically the region right next to the fastest level of winds above our head. So when that happens, you get a deformation band or a few of them to set up. But again, they're very unpredictable on exact locations. I do think a couple of them are possible in that red box, which would enhance snowfall totals. But given the fact that we don't know the exact location of it, that's why we labeled it the greatest area of uncertainty, because you could end up with a little bit less than what you see, or you could end up with a little bit more than what you see because of the exact location of the deformation band not being able to be noticed right now. Justin, thank you for tuning in on YouTube. I appreciate that, my friend, and everyone else over there, the One-Armed Bandit, Daxton, Jay Dame, thank you all so much. Again, so Stephanie asked a good question. What about road conditions in the Princeton and Eddyville area? So I want to make it real clear. No matter how much snow you see tonight, temperatures are approaching the single digits. So that means anything that falls is going to stick. Also means that brine and salt will not work as effectively, because when you get to the 13 to 15 degree mark and start going under that, the chemicals in the salt and brine doesn't break down the snow or ice very well. In fact, it really hardly works at all. So whether you see 1 inch or heck, even a dusting all the way up to 5 or 6 inches, you're going to see road conditions really deteriorate, which is why we've extremely advised against travel tonight, tomorrow morning, even going into Monday night, and again on Tuesday morning, especially if a secondary wave arrives. Oh, and by the way, Model data doesn't have us going above freezing for the next 5 or 6 days. So road conditions will continue to be a question mark throughout the next 72 to 96 hours, no matter where you're at, really. Amanda, thank you for the update there. Yeah, and also real quick, just a note with you, if you're right on the edge of a color, let's say Elizabethtown, for example. So let's zoom in on E-Town. If you're right on the edge of a color, don't try to pinpoint exactly where your neighborhood is on that line, because I'm going to be honest with you, I made this by hand, okay? So it's not going to be 100% perfect down to literally the exact acre of your lot. The best bet and the rule of thumb I always tell people, take a median of the 2 zones. So for example, E-Town is on the edge of the 2 to 4 to 1 to 3 inch zone. So for me, what I would do is go for more of a, I would think my range is 1.5 to possibly 3.5 inches. That's my range there. So take for that, that's a really good rule of thumb to have. Because again, we're drawing these by hands, guys. This is not going to be down to the exact acre of your yard. So a good rule of thumb is if you find yourself on the edge of a color, you really can't determine exactly where you're at. The best bet is to get a general idea of where you are and to take a median of the 2 ranges. Ashlyn, that's so hard to predict. I try to stay away from that kind of stuff. I will say, it's going to be really cold. I do think the good thing is we're talking about a very fine, very soft, very powdery snow. So it shouldn't really be sticking to power lines. It should just fall right on through it. Yeah, so basically take a median or an average of the two zones. So like again, for example, Elizabethtown is right on that edge between the 2 to 4 inch zone and 1 to 3 inch zone. So I would go more of like, if I lived in Elizabethtown, I would say my range is 1.5 to 3.5 inches. Justin, thank you for the update there. Tyler, we stay so low below freezing. I'm not really seeing any chances at ice unless you get some salt to melt the snow into water, and even then our liquid ratio is so low, guys. We're only going to get about 1/4 inch of liquid. We're not going to get very much liquid. The reason we're getting a little bit extra snowfall out of this is because our snow ratios are so high. So I really don't have a concern for ice. And by the way, I usually do this, but I'm going to stay away from it in this video. I'm not going to answer every single zip code that's in the comment section. If we did, there's 600 viewers across the board. If we did, we'd be here all night. Just my best advice, if you don't know where you're at on the map, look it up on your smartphone. If you open the maps, it'll have a pin of right where you're at, and then compare it to where you're at on this map and find your zone there. Overall timing is any time between 7 p.m. tonight to really 1 to 2 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. Chances of snow are there, especially if you're in either of those purple zones. So Justin, thank you for the compliment on YouTube. I appreciate that. Believe it's too cold to snow. That's interesting. No, I don't think we're looking at a lot of ice on the roads. I really don't think we're looking at anything at all unless it melts a little bit and then turns into a very, very, very thin layer of ice. However, you're talking about, that really fine powdery snow that accumulates very well. So hazardous conditions on the roads are definitely expected even without ice. Any prediction for another storm for this year like 09? What are your thoughts? Oh, that's a loaded question. Naomi, I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Thank you for your 100 stars. I appreciate your kindness there. I absolutely cannot project. You guys got to remember that 09 ice storm was historic. So to try to project something like that is not in my house of cards. I can just say that the cold air really does stick around for quite some time. So I guess just have to stay tuned for that. I'm sorry about that. I can't really answer that for you. Thank you for that report there, Rebecca. All right, I wanted to keep this video nice and short. We've done that. Again, I'm not going to go through and answer every single zip code. Typically I do, but I'm not really going to do that tonight just because I want to get back to looking at data, as well as, quite frankly, guys, I've been back here since 7 a.m. I am ready to get a little bit of a break. And then watch the data as it comes through and update you. We'll have updates out on our Twitter, out on our Facebook, out on our YouTube. If you haven't already, Twitter is the quickest way to get our updates. So go to Twitter if you're on it. Our handle over there is @WeatherNowKY, @WeatherNowKY. on Twitter. I don't know why, but it's always so much faster than Facebook to get stuff pushed out that way. Also, a really good tip is to turn on notifications for no matter what you're using, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. So, because we're going to post several updates throughout the night, guys. We'll probably go live again in a few hours just to give you another quick update. But let me see. Jordan asked about the Thursday or Friday system. I'm not even going to think about looking at that yet because the snowpack from this storm will greatly affect how the next one travels. So I definitely don't want to get into that just yet. If you're just not tuning in very late, first of all, welcome in. I'm sorry that we're ending this broadcast, but this video will be available to watch at your own convenience on our YouTube and Facebook after it takes a few minutes to upload after we end the broadcast. But anyway, I am George Herbig, Chief Forecaster here for WNK. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate all of your support, and I hope we're doing good for you. Until next time, stay safe and stay warm, Kentucky.